So picture this, Nigeria, a country with amazing people, jollof rice that could start wars, friendly ones mostly, and a history, a very, very interesting history. In this history there are some big characters. Think of them like movie stars, but with more military uniforms. One of these stars, or perhaps a villain depending on who you ask, was General Sani Abacha. He wasn't the kind of guy who won popularity contests, unless the contest was for most likely to make people nervous. He was a military man, through and through, and he ran Nigeria for a while. His time in charge from 1993 to 1998 was memorable. Not always in a good way, you know? Like that one uncle at every family gathering, you remember him all right. Abacha came to power after a period of, let's call it, political shuffling. That's a nice way of saying things were a bit chaotic. He promised stability. Some say he delivered it with an iron fist. Others might say it was more of a concrete glove. General Sani Abacha's government wasn't exactly known for its open-door policy, unless that door led to a jail cell for critics. He ran a tight ship, very tight. So tight some people couldn't breathe. Freedom of speech? That was more like a suggestion you probably shouldn't take. Newspapers were shut down, activists disappeared. It was a tense time. People whispered. They didn't shout their opinions from the rooftops, unless they wanted a free, long-term stay in a government hotel, not the five-star kind. Corruption? Oh boy. Let's just say if corruption was an Olympic sport, Nigeria under Abacha would have a lot of gold medals. Billions of dollars with a B went missing. Poof, vanished, into thin air, or more accurately, into overseas bank accounts. It was like a magic show, but the only ones applauding were the magicians. The Nigerian people? They were left wondering where their money went. Money that could have built schools, hospitals, roads. But instead it built mansions, somewhere far, far away. Human rights were, shall we say, not a top priority. It was more of an afterthought. Then came June 8, 1998, a day like any other, until it wasn't. General Sani Abacha died, suddenly, unexpectedly. One minute he was the most powerful man in Nigeria, the next he was gone. The official cause of death was a heart attack. Simple, clean. But this is Nigeria we're talking about. Simple and clean don't always sell, especially when the person involved is, well, General Abacha. So the rumor mill started, and boy did it grind. The unofficial stories were much more colorful, more dramatic. One popular theory involved apples, poisoned apples to be exact, allegedly given to him by, shall we say, female companions from overseas. Another version involved a certain blue pill, you know the one, for, stamina. The story goes, he might have had too much of a good thing, or a bad thing, depending on your perspective. These stories spread like wildfire. Were they true? Who knows? But they made for great headlines and even better gossip. Section 4. After the silence, a nation holds its breath. When the news of Abacha's death finally broke, Nigeria was stunned. Imagine the scene. People heard whispers first, then official confirmation. The strongman was gone. For many, it was a moment of disbelief, followed by a wave of uncertainty. What did this mean for the country? Would there be chaos? Another military takeover by someone even tougher? Or just maybe a chance for something different, something better? Nobody knew for sure. It was like the season finale of a very tense TV show. Cliffhanger ending. General Abdulsalami Abubakar, a less-known military figure, quickly stepped in. He became the new head of state. People watched him closely. Was he Abacha 2.0 or something else? He surprised many. He started talking about a transition to democracy, real democracy. Not the guided kind they had seen before. He promised elections. He promised to release political prisoners. This was big news. Section 5, June 12th, the election Nigeria almost had. Now, to understand the relief and hope after Abacha's death, we need to rewind, go back a few years, to June 12th, 1993. This date is a big deal in Nigeria, a very big deal. It was the day of a presidential election, an election that was supposed to end military rule, and bring in a civilian government. The two main candidates were Moshood Ko Abiola of the Social Democratic Party SDP, and Bashir Tofa of the National Republican Convention, NRC. The country was buzzing. The election itself was seen as remarkable. It was largely peaceful, orderly, and most importantly, free and fair. International observers said so. Nigerians said so. People voted across ethnic lines, across religious lines. It was a moment of national unity, a rare thing. MKO Abiola, a wealthy businessman and philanthropist, was widely believed to be winning, by a landslide. It looked like Nigeria was finally getting its democracy. Section 6, MKO Abiola, the people's president who never was. Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola, MKO Abiola. That name is central to the June 12 story. He was the man who won. The man who should have been president. He was a Yoruba businessman from the southwest, a Muslim. His running mate, Baba Gana Kingibe, was a Kanuri Muslim from the northeast. This Muslim ticket was unusual, but people voted for them anyway. It showed that Nigerians wanted unity. They wanted change. More than they cared about religious or ethnic differences. At least at that moment. After the annulment, Abiola didn't just go home and sulk, oh no. He declared himself the rightful president, based on the votes cast on June 12th. This was a brave move, a very dangerous move. The military government didn't like it, not one bit. In 1994, under Abacha's regime, Abiola was arrested. Section 7, from annulled vote to national holiday. The legacy of June 12th. For many years after 1993, June 12th was a contentious date. For pro-democracy activists, it was a day of remembrance, a day to protest military rule, and demand recognition of Abiola's victory. For the government, especially under Abacha, it was a day to suppress dissent. They tried to erase its memory, but they couldn't. The spirit of June 12th was too strong. It was a wound that wouldn't heal, a question that wouldn't go away. What if? What if that election had stood? After Abacha's death and the return to democracy in 1999, things began to change. Slowly. The new civilian government, led by Olusegun Obasanjo, was initially hesitant. Obasanjo himself had a complex relationship with Abiola, but the calls for recognition grew louder. Year after year, civil society groups, activists, and ordinary Nigerians kept the memory alive. They argued that true reconciliation, true democracy, required acknowledging the injustice of June 12th. It was about setting the record straight. Finally, in 2018, President Muhammadu Buhari took a historic step. He officially declared June 12th as Nigeria's Democracy Day. He also posthumously awarded MKO Abiola the Grand Commander of the Federal Republic, GCFR,